Then can I have one answer in return? He demanded. One. Tell me one theory. Whoops, not that one. You didn't qualify. You just promised one answer, he reminded me. And you have broken promises yourself, I reminded him back. Just one theory. I won't laugh. Yes, you will. I was positive about that. He looked down and then glanced up at me through his long black lashes, his ochre eyes scorching. Please? He breathed, leaning towards me. I blinked, my mind going blank. Holy crow, how did he do that? What? I asked, dazed. Please tell me just one little theory. His eyes still smoldered at me. Well, bitten by a radioactive spider? Was he a hypnotist too? Or was I just a hopeless pushover? That's not very creative, he scoffed. I'm sorry, that's all I have got, I said, miffed. You're not even close, he teased. No spiders? Nope. And no radioactivity? None. Dang, I sighed. Kryptonite doesn't bother me either, he chuckled. You're not supposed to laugh, remember? He struggled to compose his face. I'll figure it out eventually, I warned him. I wish you wouldn't try. He was serious again. Because? What if I'm not a superhero? What if I'm the bad guy? He smiled playfully, but his eyes were impenetrable. Oh, I said, as several things he had hinted fell suddenly into place. I see. Do you? His face was abruptly severe, as if he were afraid that he had accidentally said too much. You are dangerous? I guessed, my pulse quickening as I intuitively realized the truth of my own words. He was dangerous. He had been trying to tell me that all along. He just looked at me, eyes full of some emotion I couldn't comprehend. But not bad, I whispered, shaking my head. No, I don't believe that you are bad. You're wrong. His voice was almost inaudible. He looked down, stealing my bottle lid and then spinning it on its side between his fingers. I stared at him, wondering why I didn't feel afraid. He meant what he was saying. That was obvious. But I just felt anxious, on edge, and, more than anything else, fascinated. The same way I always felt when I was near him. The silence lasted until I noticed that the cafeteria was almost empty. I jumped to my feet. We are going to be late. I'm not going to class today, he said, twirling the lid so fast it was just a blur. Why not? It's healthy to ditch class now and then. He smiled up at me, but his eyes were still troubled. Well, I'm going, I told him. I was far too big a coward to risk getting caught. He turned his attention back to his makeshift top. I'll see you later then. I hesitated, torn, but then the first bell sent me hurrying out the door, with a last glance confirming that he hadn't moved a centimeter. As I half ran to class, my head was spinning faster than the bottle cap. So few questions had been answered in comparison to how many new questions had been raised. At least, the rain had stopped. I was lucky Mr. Banner wasn't in the room yet when I arrived. I settled quickly into my seat, aware that both Mike and Angela were staring at me. Mike looked resentful, Angela looked surprised and slightly awed. Mr. Banner came in the room then, calling the class to order. He was juggling a few small cardboard boxes in his arms. He put them down on Mike's table, telling him to start passing them around the class. Okay, guys, I want you all to take one piece from each box, he said as he produced a pair of rubber gloves from the pocket of his lab jacket and pulled them on. The sharp sound as the gloves snapped into place against his wrists seemed ominous to me. The first should be an indicator card, he went on, grabbing a white card with 4 squares marked on it and displaying it. The second is a 4-pronged applicator. He held up something that looked like a nearly toothless hairpick. And the third is a sterile micro-lancet. He held up a small piece of blue plastic and split it open. The barb was invisible from this distance, but my stomach flipped. I'll be coming around with a dropper of water to prepare your cards, so please don't start until I get to you. He began at Mike's table again, carefully putting 1 drop of water in each of the 4 squares. Then I want you to carefully prick your finger with the lancet. He grabbed Mike's hand and jabbed the spike into the tip of Mike's middle finger. Oh no! Clammy moisture broke out across my forehead. Put a small drop of blood on each of the prongs, he demonstrated, squeezing Mike's finger till the blood flowed. I swallowed convulsively, my stomach heaving. And then apply it to the card, he finished, holding up the dripping red card for us to see. I closed my eyes, trying to hear through the ringing in my ears. The Red Cross is having a blood drive in Port Angeles next weekend, so I thought you should all know your blood type. He sounded proud of himself. Those of you who aren't 18 yet will need a parent's permission. I have slips at my desk. He continued through the room with his water drops. I put my cheek against the cool black tabletop and tried to hold on to my consciousness. All around me, I could hear squeals, complaints, and giggles as my classmates screwed their fingers. I breathed slowly in and out through my mouth. Bella, are you all right? Mr. Banner asked. His voice was close to my head, and it sounded alarmed. I already know my blood type, Mr. Banner, I said in a weak voice. I was afraid to raise my head. Are you feeling faint? Yes, sir, I muttered, internally kicking myself for not ditching when I had the chance. Can someone take Bella to the nurse, please? He called. I didn't have to look up to know that it would be Mike who volunteered. Can you walk? Mr. Banner asked. Yes, I whispered. Just let me get out of here, I thought. I'll crawl. Mike seemed eager as he put his arm around my waist and pulled my arm over his shoulder. I leaned against him heavily on the way out of the classroom. Mike towed me slowly across campus. When we were around the edge of the cafeteria, out of sight of Building 4, in case Mr. Banner was watching, I stopped. Just let me sit for a minute, please, I begged. He helped me sit on the edge of the walk. And whatever you do, keep your hand in your pocket, I warned. I was still so dizzy. I slumped over on my side, putting my cheek against the freezing, damp cement of the sidewalk, closing my eyes. That seemed to help a little. Wow, you're green, Bella, Mike said nervously. Bella? A different voice called from the distance. No, please let me be imagining that horribly familiar voice. What's wrong? Is she hurt? His voice was closer now, and he sounded upset. I wasn't imagining it. I squeezed my eyes shut, hoping to die, or at the very least, not to throw up. Mike seemed stressed. I think she's fainted. I don't know what happened, and she didn't even stick her finger. Bella? Edward's voice was right behind me, relieved now. Can you hear me? No, I groaned. Go away. He chuckled. I was taking her to the nurse, Mike explained in a defensive tone, but she wouldn't go any further. I'll take her, Edward said. I could hear the smile still in his voice. You can go back to class. No, Mike protested. I'm supposed to do it. Suddenly, the sidewalk disappeared from beneath me. My eyes flew open in shock. Edward had scooped me up in his arms as easily as if I weighed 10 pounds instead of 110. Put me down! Please, please let me not vomit on him. He was walking before I was finished talking.